When hungry, she waits for others' charity. When tired, she uses the sky as her blanket and the ground as her bed. This is the daily life of a 9-year-old girl, yet she never complains about her fate, instead remaining cheerful and optimistic. Every day, she actively reads books and newspapers, hoping that one day, she can change her destiny with the knowledge she gains. One day, while begging on the street, she saw an elegantly dressed man. The girl, relying on her cuteness, approached him and gently tugged at his clothes. However, at the moment they touched, memories of her past life flooded into her mind like fragments. It turned out that in her previous life, she was sickly, and the hospital was her only home. To pass the time, she could only read novels that interested her. The man before her was Karen. The protagonist of a book, he wasn't just the Empire's most handsome man, but also the Duke of the Leyden family. Wealthy beyond measure, but in reality, he was a demon who killed without blinking an eye. He came here to hunt down a serial killer, but in the novel, he missed the best opportunity to find the killer. The killer not only successfully hid in the slums, but also murdered many people there, including herself and her beggar friends. So to save her own life, the girl anxiously grabbed Karen's clothes again. She told him where the killer was hiding. Initially, Karen didn't believe her words, but the girl's sincere and anxious expression made him inexplicably run into that alley. Sure enough, he successfully caught that man and took out his golden hammer. Striking the man's head, this bloody scene was witnessed by the girl who had secretly followed. She trembled in fear, thinking she would also be killed by the man, but unexpectedly, Karen just handed her a business card, telling her to come to the Duke's mansion in a few days to find him. But the girl didn't take this matter to heart. However, a few days later, she saw an advertisement in the newspaper for maid recruitment at the Duke's mansion. So she brought the business card and some picked flowers to apply, but the guard, seeing her ragged clothes, wouldn't let her in just then. A voice came from behind her. What's happening here? The little beggar helped the Duke greatly, yet asks for nothing in return. Only wants to stay at the Duke's mansion as a hardworking maid. At least I won't have to sleep on the streets covered in newspapers. She went on and on about her advantages. Though I'm young, I'm very healthy and I'm very frugal with food. 1 meal a day is enough. I'm also good at mopping floors and washing clothes. Oh, and I'm small, so I can even climb into chimneys to clean them, but everyone remains silent. And she feared they might misunderstand, gesturing frantically. She explained, though I sleep on the streets, the alley where I sleep is very clean. I definitely don't have any contagious diseases. The Duke's sister asked puzzledly, since my brother owes you a favor, you could have asked for a better reward. Why choose to be a maid? The little beggar lowered her head, clutching her tattered clothes. Because I just want to be normal, I just hope that during the day I won't be beaten or scolded. The Duke's sister's heart melted completely. She patted the little beggar's head, comforting her. Then what are your salary requirements? The little beggar's eyes sparkled. Does this mean you'll take me? Any amount you want to give is fine, maybe 1/4 of an adult salary. How does that sound? No one answered her. So the little beggar carefully added, half of that would be fine too. At that moment, the Duke asked from his high position, how did you know I was chasing the fugitive William? The little beggar was prepared, as if answering an exam question, because I saw him in the alley. That man looked just like the criminal on the wanted poster. The Duke nodded, acknowledging the little beggar's keen observation. Then he asked, but among so many people, why did you specifically ask me for help? The little beggar opened her innocent big eyes. She absolutely couldn't say, I've read this book. I know everything that happens. She played dumb, it was just by chance. I was just looking for someone who could help. And you look strong, standing out particularly in the crowd, though I didn't expect you to be a noble. This answer made sense for a child. The Duke then asked, then how did you know I was going to the train station? This question wasn't difficult for the clever little beggar. A well-dressed gentleman, hurrying through a dirty alley, there could only be one reason. You must have wanted to quickly get to the train station in front of the district. And that alley was the shortcut to the train station, the little beggar thought. Do I need to answer so many questions just to become a maid? She silently prayed, I don't expect to be a cleaning maid or help in the kitchen. Even if I had to watch the horses, I can accept that. But the Duke coldly announced, we're no longer hiring maids. The little beggar lowered her head in disappointment. However, I'll give you 5 gold coins per week. This sudden fortune made the little beggar uneasy. Could the Duke want to make me into a collection piece? But the next second, the Duke calmly asked, would you like to be my daughter? The little beggar's mind short-circuited for a moment. What kind of maid work does a daughter do? The Duke's sister sitting nearby burst into laughter. The little beggar, with her wit, had helped the Duke find the real culprit. She had hoped to use this chance to stay at the Duke's mansion as a maid, not seeking great wealth, just hoping for a paying job. Who knew, the Duke would say. Be my daughter, the little beggar hadn't processed it. Please, what work does a daughter do? The Duke lowered his head and lifted a strand of the little beggar's hair. Malnourished must be properly nourished. He continued coaxing the little beggar, you're too young, I can't make you work. But I can't bear to see you continue living on the streets, so just stay here. The little beggar understood clearly. If she became the Duke's daughter, she would become the most noble lady in the kingdom. But at the same time, she would have to step into this blood-stained Duke's world. Though unsure if it was fortune or misfortune, she was willing to seize this opportunity. Perhaps this was life's turning point, the little beggar nodded firmly. The Duke sighed in relief, abduction successful. He asked the butler to take the little beggar to get cleaned up. The Duke's sister found it absurd, just decided like that. Brother, do you even know this child's name? The little beggar also realized belatedly, regretfully tapping her hand, I'm called Ray. It's the name my mother gave me. Led to the bathroom by the maid, Ray looked around the bathroom in disbelief. It was even larger than the reception room from earlier. She called to the retreating maid. Can I ask you a question? The butler seemed a bit embarrassed. You can ask me after your bath, but Ray insisted. I just want to ask what it means when the Duke wants me to be his adopted daughter. The butler calmly replied, it means you'll become the young mistress here. Still confused, why would the Duke let an orphan like me into his home? What will I have to do? The butler understood that Ray was a very clever child without any schemes. Although nobles rarely adopt children, it's not completely without precedent. Some families adopt children to provide companions for their only child, of course. Some do it for charity. They bring orphans home and nurture them to become talented individuals. He told Ray, young miss, if you eventually gain the approval of other nobles, they will praise the Duke's kindness in adopting you. The little one thought for a moment. So the best way to repay the Duke was to become an excellent person. In these terrible times with murderers running rampant, weak and helpless, I could only live on the streets. Surviving by begging, but at the Duke's mansion, I can have food and education. She convinced herself, even if the Duke's adoption was just charity, I should still be grateful, weighing 30 pounds. 10 of which was just dirt on her body. Her hair was black before bathing. After washing, she discovered her hair was actually golden. The little beggar looked at the murky bathwater. Her face reddened with shame. I'm sorry I made the bathtub dirty. The maid shook her head. From now on, you're the Duke's young lady, no need to be so polite. The little girl lowered her head, clutching the towel. Unable to believe such soft fabric was just for drying off, she lifted her dress and twirled around curiously. The maids all exclaimed at her every move, calling her adorable. The head maid called, young miss, your meal is ready in the dining room. She arrived at the luxurious dining room. The table was full of delicious food and wine glasses, but no one was there. She randomly chose a seat, struggling to climb up due to her small size, looking at the roasted meat before her. Thinking these must taste wonderful, her stomach growled. Though the hungry little girl had been homeless for many years, she knew about manners. Wait for everyone to be seated before eating. 20 minutes passed, drool almost forming at her mouth. The dining room remained empty. She was so hungry her eyes were glazing over, almost like a flesh-craving zombie taking a piece of soft cloud-like bread, the girl thought, maybe just a little bite won't hurt. Taking a small bite of the milky bread almost made her dance with joy. She grabbed a chicken leg. Wow, this is delicious too, so good it makes me want to cry. She ate with great enthusiasm. She didn't notice a boy appear beside her, such a small person yet eating so much. The girl was so startled she dropped the chicken leg. When did he arrive? He added without awkwardness. You're sitting in my seat, the frightened little beggar. On her first day at the Duke's house, immediately stood up to apologize. I'm sorry, but she stumbled, almost falling face first onto the table. The boy quickly caught her. He steadied the dazed little one back onto the chair. With a big brotherly manner, he returned to the seat beside her. Your seat is across from me. That's where you should sit from now on. The brother was kinder than she imagined, but she still didn't dare look at him. The boy was very curious about his new sister. He leaned in to smell her pink hair. Does it smell like strawberries because it's pink? The little girl honestly replied, it's the soap scent. Looking at the empty plates before her, the girl curled her toes in embarrassment. I'm sorry I ate all your food. Back when I was begging, even if it was just a small piece of dried dough, everyone would share it. That's what friends do, but now with this table full of food, I only thought of myself. The girl felt guilty. I wanted to be friends with you, but now you probably think I'm just a glutton. The brother didn't think that at all. Don't overthink it. I didn't interrupt you because you look so cute when eating. Your cheeks were all puffed up, just like the cat I used to have. He remembered that cute cat. Whenever it saw food, it would go crazy and could eat so much. The brother mentioned experimenting on the cat. The sister's hands trembled in fear. Will I be turned into a specimen too? The brother seriously described the experiment process. First, I changed its living environment. It was a bit listless at first, so I put it in a warm place. Gave it a new bed and medicine, but its time had come, so it still died in the end. The sister realized this wasn't a cruel experiment, but devoted care. Her brother wasn't as cold-blooded as she imagined. She smiled sweetly. That cat must have been very grateful to you, but the brother was curious about his new family member. Why do you want to be friends with me? Ray answered seriously. It's because of you that I can stay here. I'm very grateful to you. The boy remained expressionless. That was my father's decision. Ray shook her head. She understood that if the brother disagreed, the Duke would have sent her away. After all, the brother was the Duke's treasure. The boy thought for a moment, but siblings can't be friends. Ray lowered her head in disappointment. The brother couldn't bear to see her sad, but we can still get along well. You're really interesting when you eat. Ray didn't know how to explain. I won't do that anymore. Actually, she usually didn't eat much. The brother was curious why father would adopt a little beggar. Have you killed someone or done bad things? Ray shook her head vigorously. How could someone as weak as her threaten anyone? But speaking of bad deeds, Ray remembered being falsely accused of stealing a wallet. She had tried to explain that she was just waiting there after finding it. But the owner beat her violently and called her a thief. Ray had felt like dying from the pain, but she casually told her brother, I just got slapped a few times. The brother got a bit angry since you were wrongly accused. The person who slapped you is the real villain. Do you remember what they look like? The little girl shook her head. That was a long time ago. The next moment, the brother smiled innocently. Tell me when you remember, I'll help you twist their head off and use it as a ball. The little one was startled, though she said she'd tell him if she remembered. She actually thought that even if she did remember, she absolutely wouldn't tell him. He was perfect. The Duke's son, handsome, rich, and elegant, but he enjoyed the pleasure of killing, especially killing those social parasites. He preferred to torture them thoroughly before death, making them experience the same despair as their innocent victims felt before death, trampling this psychopathic killer underfoot, grinding him with their shoes. I heard you killed over 30 people and collected their organs. The Duke spoke coldly, asking the butler were those collections returned to the victims' families. The butler answered no, he sneered. Why don't we cut you into 30 pieces and send them to the victims' families along with the collections? The butler thoughtfully helped the Duke put on black gloves. My lord, that would indeed be a perfect punishment. The little beggar became the Duke's adopted child. Waking up in a luxurious 100-square-meter bed, she pinched her cheeks. It wasn't a dream after all. Wearing clean clothes, she energetically greeted her brother sitting across from her brother at meals. She glanced at the empty main seat. The Duke seems to be absent again today. Brother replied, Father is always very busy. He's probably inspecting the territory today. Ray didn't expose her brother's lie. Inspecting the territory was just an excuse to cover up when the Duke was out killing people. I better not ask too much. Though eating alone with brother for several days straight, being stared at intently by brother, Ray worried she might get indigestion, but her hands didn't stop moving. Brother teased, you should learn to chew slowly at the dining table. Ray wiped her mouth. I know, brother, do you have time to play with me today? He shook his head. I need to go to the academy today. Seeing his sister's disappointed expression, brother looked at the butler, who pulled out a yellow balloon from what seemed like Dorman's pocket. Ray's eyes instantly lit up. Is this for me? Weren't balloons only for special occasions? She was so happy she cried. Brother sat beside her worriedly. You're crying again? I didn't expect a balloon would make you so happy. He couldn't help but reach out to pat his sister's fluffy head. Ray was moved. Thank you for the gift. I'll keep it with me always. The butler came forward to pour the little one a sweet milk tea, a warm room, and gifts from family. Delicious food. Starting a new day like this was perfect. Ray squinted, wanting to keep this moment of happiness forever in her heart. Auntie was a holy maiden of the temple, pure as a virgin. But when it came to her newly adopted niece, she moved like a startled rabbit, her carriage taking shortcuts, taking the shortest route to stop in front of her niece, then making a flashy entrance, feigning surprise. Oh my, Ray, what a coincidence meeting you here. The butler helplessly remarked, it was your carriage that rushed towards us. Auntie completely ignored this, awkwardly changing the subject. Now everyone's talking about my brother adopting a girl. The butler was displeased. Already, we specifically prohibited the press from reporting this. Auntie covered her smile with a fan, laughing meaningfully. The public's gossip spreads faster than newspapers after all. Every move of the Empire's most handsome man, my brother the Duke, affects every young lady's nerves. Auntie bent down to look at her little niece by the butler's side. "Oh my, this dress seems a bit big and the style is outdated too." Ray was quite satisfied. "Isn't it pretty, Anti?" She pouted. "I knew it would be like this. We finally have an adorable little lady in the family, yet nothing proper was prepared for her." Learning that brother wasn't home, Auntie smiled brightly. "Then I'll take my little niece with me first." Despite the butler's objections, she forcefully took the adorable Ray away. "And don't call me madam, don't call me Maria Ann." In the carriage, Auntie couldn't stop praising her little niece. "You were so cute when I first saw you. And now you become even prettier." Holding the balloon from her brother, Ray blushed at the compliment. "Lady Maria Ann, you're the true beauty." Anti was delighted, such sweet words. She said, then pulled out her fairy happiness cigarette. Ray's mouth trembled in shock. "Anti, aren't you a holy maidens?" Seeing her niece cover her nose, Anti quickly extinguished it. "Sorry, I shouldn't smoke in front of you." Then gently patted Ray's little head. The carriage arrived at the city center. Ray stared intently at the toy store outside the window. For her former self, just being able to look at the toy store from afar was satisfying enough, because whenever she got close to the store entrance, the owner would chase away the little beggar. Ray remembered once when the store owner forgot to turn off the display window lights at closing time. When she sneaked over to look in the early morning, the sight before her made her feel like she was in heaven. That day, Ray stood in front of the display window all night. Now Ray was thinking, since she was with Auntie, maybe she could enter the toy store. Being stroked by Auntie's warm hand felt so comfortable she wanted to roll around in joy. She had a cool aunt whose main job was being a holy maiden. But that didn't stop Auntie from smoking, drinking, and getting prunes. Auntie didn't have any noble interests when happy. She'd just spend money shopping. Just as they entered the clothing store, 3 clerks rushed to serve them. The big spender must be well served. But today, Auntie wasn't buying clothes for herself, but for the little one hiding behind her. The little niece greeted them nervously. The clerks were very tense, realizing she was the recent center of gossip, the Duke's adopted child. She sensitively noticed the clerks' unfriendly gazes, quietly hiding more behind Auntie. Auntie noticed this and her aura changed from gentle to, "Well, let's see how you plan to earn this money." But the little niece nervously grabbed Auntie's dress. "No, that's too much," but Auntie didn't mind. "First shopping trip should cost this much." "Don't worry about it." The girl was so anxious she almost cried. "If I spend too much money, what if the Duke kicks me out?" She hadn't noticed the enthusiastic clerks already swarming around, taking away the balloon in her hand. "We'll take care of this for you, dear." Ray was reluctant to let go. It was from her brother after all. What if it flew away? But the clerks were too eager. They dragged Ray away, draping colorful fabrics over the little girl, but Auntie shook her head, unsatisfied. "Do you have anything more expensive? These don't suit her status as a duke's daughter, and these styles are already outdated." "How could you give such an adorable child outdated clothes?" Ray crouched on the chair, looking small, pitiful, and helpless. Auntie finally chose a dress. Ray didn't dare delay and followed the sales girl into the fitting room. Only then did she realize the dress was a princess gown. She was too scared to breathe. Suddenly, a sharp voice came from next door. "Don't touch me, just let my maid attend to me." Then came a sour comment. "I really don't understand, Duke. I'm about to become the Duchess." Yet he picked up some wild girl as his daughter. That girl isn't like young Master Jade, who has dark mage bloodline. Ray felt dejected, lowering her head as she heard the lady continue. "Education is also a headache. How can we possibly make her presentable?" The sycophant suggested, "You could arrange her marriage early. Send her to the countryside." The blonde lady laughed wickedly. "Not a bad idea. She better be pretty, though. Who would want to marry an ugly woman if she turns out to be ugly? We can just sell her to the circus." Ray heard all these malicious words. Actually, when she was a beggar, she met many such people who would look at her with disgust. She consoled herself that it didn't matter. "I don't care." Auntie had been waiting outside for a while. Her praise instantly cleared away Ray's gloom. Brother had given her an inexpensive balloon which she held tightly, promising to take it to her grave. But as soon as she entered the clothing store, the staff took it away. Though the balloon was tied securely by the window, she still felt uneasy. The balloon was the first gift she'd ever received. She checked again with her eyes in the blink of an eye. The balloon had vanished, the window was open, ignoring her fancy dress. She rushed out the door looking around. There was no trace of the balloon. She lowered her head in disappointment. Just then a hand reached out from the alley toward her small body. "Young lady, you look noble-born. Would you like your fortune told? Your hair color is so beautiful." Then that hand reached for her. She felt goosebumps all over. The damp, cold touch made Ray step back repeatedly. Taking advantage of their distraction, she quickly turned and ran. Thanks to years of street life, she could run quite fast, panting. She lost them 3 blocks away, leaning against a wall to rest. She realized she was in front of the antique toy store she'd longed for. This used to be her heaven, but now she didn't covet it anymore. These toys because brother's balloon was more precious. Ray suddenly realized she had accidentally run out wearing the unpaid dress from the store. She pushed through the crowd, thinking she must hurry back, but she got lost. Ray silently sobbed in the street, then a familiar dark shadow caught her eye. It drew her attention. It was the Duke's presence. The next moment, the Duke stepped down from his carriage in shiny leather shoes. He joked, running away from home so soon, looking her up and down. The Duke made sure she was unharmed. Then he held the little one in his arms to comfort her. The little one nervously explained how she got lost. But how did you recognize me when you last saw me? I was so messy, usually cold to others. The Duke now gently praised, I saw an angel standing by the roadside. When I got closer, I realized it was you. The little one blushed, thinking admiringly how noble-like he was, such a smooth talker. The Duke carried Ray back to the clothing store. The staff rushed out anxiously. Miss, you suddenly disappeared. We were so worried. If we couldn't find you, we would have called the police. The staff apologized hurriedly. A customer asked to open the window. That's why your balloon flew away. The one who had bullied Ray now appeared before the Duke with a coy expression, Your Grace. We haven't seen each other in a while. By the way, who is this child? He spoke gently to the adopted girl. We're family now, but she tightly covered her nose with a fan. Disgusted by the non-existent poor smell on the girl was sensitive. She knew her adoptive mother disliked her when the Duke wasn't present. She had heard her adoptive mother talk about selling her to the circus, but in front of the Duke, the adoptive mother thoughtfully suggested, Have you found a tutor for her? I know a very strict teacher. Sometimes they even use physical discipline to educate children. If that teacher teaches her, she'll be completely transformed. She deliberately tapped her fan loudly, making the girl's face turn pale. The Duke said nothing, just placed Ray on a chair, then unexpectedly asked, Who am I? Ray tilted her head. You're the Duke? The Duke was dissatisfied. No, I'm your father, call me Papa. Ray instantly blushed, too shy to say those words. The adoptive mother watched impatiently from the side. The father-daughter relationship seemed better than she had imagined. Suddenly, the Duke said, Do me a favor, tell this woman to get out immediately. The adoptive mother was shocked. Playing dumb, what do you mean? The Duke cruelly repeated, Don't you understand? I mean disappear from my sight right now and never show yourself before me again. To put it more plainly, get out now, you should understand now. The adoptive mother fainted in her maid's arms, her lips trembling with anger as if not recognizing this heartless man. But Ray thought the Duke had always been like this. A dark person wasn't really a good person. Though feeling schadenfreude inside, she seemed quite happy. She looked sympathetically at her adoptive mother, now not Miss Roger, sighing inwardly how pitiful. The Duke whispered in her ear, Child, say goodbye to Roger, you'll never see her again. The little one said the cruel truth in a sweet voice. Goodbye, Auntie. The Duke was satisfied, stroking his obedient daughter's head. Good girl, you can learn slowly. Gradually you'll become more and more like a noble lady. Ray fixed her hair that the Duke had messed up, then gave Roger one final blow. I'm glad I'm not as beautiful as you. If I were as beautiful as you, I'd have to marry early, right? Or I might have been sold to the circus. The beautiful Roger burst out angrily, How dare you eavesdrop on me? She clearly admitted to having said she would sell the young girl. The Duke stood in front of Ray. Don't you understand what jurisdiction means? Having lost love, Roger completely lost her senses. Jurisdiction, this isn't your estate, the Duke sighed deeply. Don't you know I bought this entire street? The spoiled Roger started acting coy and innocent again. Your Grace. Aren't we dating? How could you say such things? The next second, the Duke held her hand, making Roger's hopes rise again. However, the dude merely took her hand to throw her outside. We only had a few meals together. How is that dating? You're being too presumptuous. If you really want to think that way, then consider it as you dumping me. Please leave before I call the guards. The brother severely criticized his sister. You're wearing this dress for the second time. Has our family become this poor? Seeing her brother about to ramble on, she quickly moved forward like a blur to stop him. Stop, don't say any more. This makes me lose face in front of my niece. She pointed to the mountain of shopping bags, proudly saying, Those are all what I bought for my niece. Ray suddenly felt immense pressure, having just arrived in this family. She wasn't used to this way of spending, but the Duke's siblings paid no attention. The Duke asked his sister how much she spent in total, hearing it was only 100 gold coins. The Duke was very dissatisfied. Don't you know how to spend? These silks and jewels aren't enough. You should have asked for their most expensive silk. Ray was so frightened she broke into a sweat, hurriedly declining these high-end fabrics. Actually, I'm fine wearing Auntie's childhood clothes. Don't we have 5 sets at home? Auntie didn't understand, just 5 sets? That won't even fill the closet. The Duke also smiled while patting Ray's head. Children shouldn't worry about how adults spend money. Then continued discussing Ray's clothes. You only prepared 20 sets, not enough, have them bring everything out. Only Ray kept stomping her feet. Don't these adults know how to save money? With no choice, she had to use her trump card. She pretended to be dizzy. Oh, I'm so tired, I can't even keep my eyes open. How about the clothes? The Duke sighed. Well, can't be helped. Put the remaining clothes back. Ray secretly showed a smug expression, giggling to herself. At the store entrance, Auntie lifted her skirt and got into the carriage. She didn't forget to remind Ray, next time we'll play together again. Remember, the Duke was unhappy? No, you don't know how to take care of children. Without my permission, you can't take her out. Auntie didn't mind, sitting in the departing carriage, still leaning out the window nostalgically. Goodbye, next time you must call me Maria Ann and just ignore what my brother said. Ray and the Duke also prepared to board their carriage home. The little one was still worried. The balloon brother gave her was lost. How should she explain it to him? Just then, a red-haired woman suddenly appeared behind them. With a pale face, she reached out. Please help me. After saying these words, she collapsed. The Duke instinctively reached out to catch her. In Ray's impression, brother was cold-blooded. Father was unsympathetic, but since she came to this family, brother had changed. He would sit on the stairs waiting for his sister to come home for dinner together. Father also often teased him, saying he looked as cute as an angel, shining brightly among the crowd. Father specially went to pick up his daughter, yet joked with the butler that this daughter was found on the roadside. How did father change from a cold prince to a funny man? She was a bit confused, but when she saw her brother, she lowered her head guiltily. Sorry, brother. I lost the first balloon you gave me. She explained the process of losing it bit by bit. Brother listened patiently while admiring his sister's tearful expression, then patted her fluffy little head to comfort her. We can buy another balloon, why cry over such a small thing? Did you like that balloon so much? Seeing his sister still upset, brother took the initiative this time. When I have time, I'll take you boating to cheer you up. Ray looked up in amazement. Isn't brother very busy? And since when did he learn to comfort people? Even more unexpected was when brother reached out his hand saying, come on, I'll take you to your room. She still remembered the first day she came to the family. When brother was so rejecting compared to now, he seemed like a completely different person. Ray wiped her tears forcefully, smiling brightly. She took a comfortable hot bath that eased her nervous mood, sitting together with brother and father. Listening to the gramophone music, father and brother were drinking wine. She curiously asked brother, how old are you? When she got the answer, 14 years old, Ray's mouth couldn't close. I thought you were 17. Can you drink wine? You're not even of age yet. Brother waved his hand. It's fine. Our family has special privileges regarding medicine and drinking. Just as the little one was about to say something, father quickly stopped her. No, you're too young. Wait until you're half as tall as your brother. Ray pondered thoughtfully. She touched her head. Father and brother were curious about what she was doing. Ray smiled happily, thinking patting her head would help her grow faster. If this little beggar hadn't been adopted by the Duke, her original fate would have been to be kidnapped, locked in a cage, and die from blood loss after having her left arm cut off. But now she sat on the soft sofa in the Duke's mansion, knowing her original fate, her back turned cold. Her hands nervously gripped her dress. Father, brother, and the butler all surrounded her, looking at her with concern. When learning today was August 9, Ray became more nervous. She tightly held her hand that the kidnapper had grabbed, her face pale. This was the day she was supposed to be killed. Ray didn't want to keep living in fear. She had to actively find the killer. She remembered that murderer liked to target women with red hair. So she grabbed the Duke's sleeve. Your Grace, about those cases you mentioned earlier. If they were premeditated murders, might there be other commonalities? For example, did those women all like fortune-telling? The Duke didn't understand why she would think of fortune-telling. The little one's expression was serious. Because fortune-telling shops are almost all in the slums, even nobles would visit famous fortune-tellers. People usually go to restaurants or clothing stores that match their status. Only fortune-telling places gather people from all walks of life. The Duke suddenly understood the connection. He called the butler. Preparing to investigate further, Lake covered her mouth, her mind tormented. She finally couldn't hold on anymore. She collapsed on the sofa. Once again, she dreamed of her original fate, that serial killer. Wearing a red wig and women's rings, sawing off her left arm, raised green pupils lost their luster. She didn't dare cry out in pain. Silently clenching her fists, better to just kill me directly. Just then the Duke appeared. He used black magic to firmly restrain the killer, then opened the cage and hugged poor Ray. Just as he was about to take her to see a doctor, an arrow pierced through the Duke's heart. Ray watched helplessly as the person who saved her fell before her eyes, and the culprit who tortured her, stroking his chin, made her sick to her scalp. Waking up from the dream, Leia didn't think it was just an empty dream. Her whole body was soaked. All in cold sweat, finally, with a trembling body, she couldn't speak a word. The Duke sat beside her, patting her trembling shoulders to comfort her. Are you all right? Lei covered her nauseous face, thinking with an ashen expression about being involved in this case. If the Duke goes to investigate, he would fall into a coma after being shot by the poisoned arrow. Although afterward, the country's most famous doctors and priests would treat him. He would still remain unconscious. The Duke was reading documents. His little daughter grabbed his arm, crying with teary eyes, pleading with a worried tone, "Your Grace, I beg you, please don't look for the killer." After acting coquettishly, the little girl immediately felt disgusted by her own sweet tone. The Duke was also shocked, with a huge question mark above his head. The documents fell directly to the ground. She wasn't being unreasonable, but she knew the Duke's secret. Once he goes to find the serial killer, he would be struck by a poisoned arrow in the heart. Ray's eyes were swollen like kiwis as she said, "I dreamed that your Grace was seriously injured. My dreams are usually accurate, so I'm really scared now. Can you stay with me?" Even if just for tonight, she carefully observed and found that everyone was silent. She hoped her willfulness this time would make everyone take it seriously. Unexpectedly, the Duke actually nodded in agreement. "All right, I'll stay home tonight. After all, helping you calm down is the most important thing right now." Lei wiped her tears and asked, "Aren't you angry? Won't you throw me out for being willful?" Hearing the Duke's gentle no, Lei felt the weight lift from her heart. She couldn't hold back anymore and started crying. Brother gently stroked her head sympathetically. "Cry, baby, stop crying." But the more she was comforted, the harder Lei cried. Finally, she cried until she started coughing. The Duke firmly ordered the butler, "Quick, bring some sedatives." The butler immediately glided out the door. Brother gently patted the tearful Lei after a while. The little one's face was red, thinking about what she had just done, especially with Brother watching her so closely. Worried that something might happen to her just then, the butler came in with medicine. The cup was the same as Ray's trembling one, but she didn't want surgery for nothing. "As long as the Duke stays with me, it's fine." The cunning butler scared her. "You better behave. Weren't you feeling nauseous earlier? If your stomach gets hurt, we'll have to cut open your belly for surgery. Do you want surgery?" Ray gripped the cup tightly and lowered her head nervously. "I'll never have surgery in this life." So she drank the medicine in one gulp. It was so bitter she almost spat it out. The butler gently wiped the corners of her mouth. Brother quickly took out a candy. Lei, being cared for so meticulously, said embarrassedly, "I can do it myself." The Duke still thanked him, but she couldn't sleep alone. Lei insisted, "No, today I must stay by your side." Her small hands patted the blanket forcefully. The Duke was somehow amused by Lei's behavior. "Was that cute gesture meant to threaten me? And we're not even blood related, yet you're so attached to me." "How wonderful." The Duke patted the blanket. "Go to sleep," but Lei firmly shook her head. "No, I'm not sleepy at all. If I fall asleep, Father will leave to find the serial killer." For Father's safety, she threw a tantrum, deliberately being willful, insisting Father sleep with her. After achieving her goal, she fought hard against sleepiness. "Tonight I absolutely can't let my guard down." But when Father lay on the bed and said, "I'll sleep with you," the little one compromised, but she still seriously declared, "I'm just lying here. I won't fall asleep." Father smiled knowingly. Then he called to Ray, "Jade, you lie down too." Brother initially refused. But seeing his sister's expectant, glowing eyes, he unconsciously lay down too. Lei felt so happy. Having Brother and Father sleeping with her, she surely wouldn't have nightmares. When the room's lights turned off, Lei stared at the ceiling thinking, "We really look like a family like this. What does it mean to be an adopted daughter? Can I treat them as my real family?" As she thought about these things, she began to doze off. Lei was puzzled. "How strange. I was so energetic just now." Brother reminded her, "Did you forget you just took medicine?" Father patted her blanket again. Under the rhythmic patting, Ray yawned repeatedly. She realized she'd been tricked by Father and Brother. In her last moments before sleep, she kept mumbling to Father, "You won't go anywhere else, right? You can't leave me here just because I fell asleep." In her final moment before entering dreamland, she optimistically thought about going to the police tomorrow. If they caught the criminal, the Duke wouldn't get hurt. But as soon as Lei fell asleep, the Duke got up and left, leaving only his son to watch over her. The adopted daughter strongly disapproved of Father breaking his promise. As the butler helped the Duke put on his coat, he chuckled. "Jade seems to like that child very much." Under cover of night, the Duke took his cane and set out to find the killer. When Lei woke up in the morning, it was already too late. Only brother remained. Sleeping on the sofa, she shook her brother for help. Oh, I should have stayed awake. I knew father's words couldn't be trusted. She anxiously asked, brother, can you ride a horse? Can you help me? I'll repay you. I'll do anything. Jade hesitated for a moment, then agreed to his sister's request, but he didn't expect his sister to be so urgent. With her tiny body pulling him, urging him to hurry. But before he could leave, a horse blocked their way. The horse was so tall, she watched her handsome brother mounted in one smooth motion. Her cheeks flushed red, eyes filled with tears, and brother only used one hand, pulled her onto the horse. Brother was so cool. Why does horseback riding look so elegant in TV dramas, but real horseback riding is so painful? Sitting on the horse's back, she felt like her bottom would split in two, and she was getting motion sickness. Her vision became blurry. Whatever brother said, she couldn't hear any of it. Despite feeling terrible, she endured it. She had to save father. The horse ran faster and faster. She finally arrived at the serial killer's house. The hot sweat from running mixed with cold sweat from fear on her face, but she had no time to wipe it away. Must hurry, find father. Her small body pressed forward without hesitation. Even with unknown dangers ahead, she never hesitated. Brother grabbed her hand. Curiously asking how she knew the killer was here, he had many questions he wanted to ask, but seeing his sister's pleading look not to ask, he could only sigh, suppressing his questions, following someone's words for the first time at the killer's doorstep. Lake carefully listened for any movement. There was no sound at all. Could the Duke already be harmed? She remembered the novel's plot. There were ambushes in the room. That killer might have pupils. Even if the Duke was strong, he couldn't withstand hidden weapons and guns. She carefully instructed Jade, if when we open the door someone's by it, rush and attack them. Though her tone was calm, her trembling hands revealed her fear of the killer. But she told herself to stay strong. Don't let the Duke get hurt. She overcame her fear and cleanly opened the door. The psychopathic killer had already been subdued by the Duke, neck tightly held, unable to move. This scene was too bloody for children. When the Duke discovered the two children behind him, he quickly ordered his son to take Yang Yu away. Brother covered her eyes, but she struggled. No, there must be an archer pupil here. The next second, she saw the dying killer move his finger. This further confirmed her suspicion. It must be a trap. She broke free from brother's hand, shouting, Duke, this is definitely a trap, then ran towards him, too late to pull him away. Lei jumped with all her might, taking the arrow meant for the Duke, falling softly into his arms. Brother anxiously ran towards her. Father gently held her. She gasped heavily, crying out in pain uncontrollably. The worried looks of the Duke and brother reminded her of her past life. From this same angle, seeing father and brother's concerned faces. Except then her surgery had failed and she couldn't say goodbye to family. This time she seized the chance, speaking two words she hadn't said in this world. Father, I'm sorry. The Duke's eyes widened. He somewhat hated himself. How could this child from the past approach him with purpose? This daughter with no blood relation would actually take an arrow for him. He had always been confident in his abilities. Kill gods who stand in the way. Kill Buddhas who blocked the paths. But at the moment his adopted daughter fell, he felt he was nothing. Why couldn't he detect that dangerous arrow earlier? Why didn't he kill the murderer immediately? Why did he have to play cat and mouse? Enjoying the pleasure of watching the opponent's death struggle, father and son desperately held Lei's body just then. The butler appeared. He came to handle the scene as instructed by the Duke. But he was late because the young lady and young master had suddenly disappeared from the mansion. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to find the two he was looking for right here. What had happened here? Holding his adopted daughter's small body, this heartache the Duke had only felt once before. When his mother died since childhood, the Duke was despised by the old Duke because he was the source of the family curse. But at the same time, the old Duke deeply envied his son's superior abilities. His twisted psychology made him cruel to his young son. It was the Duke's mother who always stood in front of him. Mom will always love you. I'm sorry I'm too weak. So when his mother was murdered and the killer left golden thread flowers, he vowed to find the killer. The second time Lei appeared before him, she was holding golden thread flowers. The Duke had suspected that Lei was either the mother's killer's accomplice or their next target. With impure motives, he adopted Lei. Despite this, he still cherished this poor little one, but that was limited to the fondness one has for pets. Yet today, when Lei not only witnessed him killing but didn't hate him, took an arrow for him, and painfully called him father, he included Lei in his family circle. The Duke coldly instructed the butler, 7, catch that worm on the ground. The butler's usually smiling face showed a sinister expression. Yes, Duke, maintaining his composure, he then instructed his son Jade. I need to stop the bleeding. She might bite her tongue from the pain, so just in case, put something in her mouth. Jade immediately tore off his sleeve. The Duke used black magic. Black butterflies appeared in his hand, then surrounded Lay's body, though unconscious. She still shuddered physiologically, then became peaceful, looking much better than before. The Duke sighed in relief. At least the bleeding had stopped. 7. Take her to a safe place. The butler tightened his grip on the killer. Then, shall we take the young lady to the Duke family's hotel? It's not far. Young New's life hung in the balance. The Duke's expression was calm. But the next moment he told the doctor, if this child dies, I'll make sure all doctors join her in death. The elderly doctor bowed nervously. We'll do our absolute best. I apologize. Sitting by Yang Yu's bedside, the Duke stroked her hair, thinking, since you called me father, then we are family now. Then holding Lay's hand, even if you bear someone else's mark, I don't care. I will take you for myself, make you my child. Holding Lay's hand tightly, the Duke seriously told her, after you wake up, I will change my teaching methods. I will raise you to be a selfish person, even if I'm shot by arrows or stabbed by knives in front of you. You must remain expressionless. He gently kissed his daughter's fingertips. The Duke devoutly prayed for her to wake up soon. Soon, all famous doctors in the country were summoned, not for a medical conference, but at the Duke's adopted daughter's bedside. Quietly discussing how to wake her up, the maids thoughtfully drew the curtains to prevent the light from being too harsh on the young lady. They treated her as if she were awake, not as a comatose patient. The usually composed butler of 20 years was restless because the young lady remained unconscious. Even disregarding professional etiquette, he asked his master for the first time, how is the young lady? The Duke answered while drinking. The doctors say her life isn't in danger. What about Jade? The butler first brought wine to the Duke, then answered. Young master insists on waiting until the surgery is over, but he seems to be struggling. He's resting in his room now. It's the first time I've seen young master so unsettled. The Duke swirled the mood, steadying red wine. I understand him. Has anyone come from the temple? The high priest should know pain-relieving magic. The butlers sighed helplessly. I've contacted them, but the palace is holding a temple celebration today. Most high priests are at the palace. They said they'll send someone after the celebration. The Duke's expression darkened as he took a sip of the calming wine. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Relay it word for word to the cane. If he doesn't immediately send all priests here, I will go to the palace myself and make the first royal family member I encounter. Experience firsthand the pain my daughter is enduring right now. Sister remained unconscious. Brother sat dejectedly on a stool by the bed. He thought about preserving his sister as a specimen. Just like they did with Bobo, Bobo was a winged cat with transparent blue eyes. A gift from father. It wasn't an ordinary cat, but a chimera. A chimera is a magical creature that shares its life with its master. Whether it's the master or the chimera, if one is injured or dies, the other is affected too. Bobo curiously sniffed brother's nose, not rejecting this human. That day, father told his son, you're its master. Take care of it as you would yourself. Later, when he grew up, he learned there were no chimeras. It was all father's lie. Sister now looked just like the cat did before death. Brother touched sister's lifeless face. Remembering how happy she was when he first gave her a balloon, he silently prayed to see her laughing and talking again. Brother was somewhat jealous of father. Why would sister rather get hurt herself to save father? How strange, why does my heart ache? Brother clutched the bedsheet and collapsed beside his sister when Lei woke up. She heard doctors crying nearby. Please wake up, young lady. I still want to see my granddaughter. If you don't wake up, the Duke will make us join you. She looked at the unfamiliar ceiling. Where am I? Why can't I make a sound? Am I dead again? Is this the afterlife? She clutched the bed sheet anxiously, then turned her head and found her sleeping brother beside her. Lei excitedly sat up. This means I'm still alive in this world, but she looked at her brother puzzled. Why is he sleeping here, though? Brother was awakened by the rustling of the blanket. He propped up his head and gently said, hello, princess, you're finally awake. I've been waiting for so long. Lei smiled, though she still couldn't speak, so she waved her arms up and down, gesturing. Look, I survived, how lucky. I didn't die from that poisoned arrow that almost killed the Duke. Brother immediately noticed his sister couldn't speak. He quickly poured a glass of water and placed it in Lei's hands. Don't rush, drink slowly. With her parched throat relieved, the little one sighed contentedly. She had been unconscious for 7 days, and the doctors were extremely anxious. Young lady, if you hadn't woken up, the Duke would have made us join you, the weak, pitiful, and helpless doctors huddled together for comfort. Just then, the Duke's son suddenly pulled open the curtains. The little one peeked out from behind her brother. Thank heavens the young lady is awake, they shed tears of joy. We're saved, but when did young Duke sneak in? Jade remained expressionless. That's none of your business. Lay silently sighed. Brother must have snuck in without anyone knowing. Brother began explaining to his sister. These doctors initially diagnosed it as just a normal arrow wound, and because the Duke stopped the bleeding in time, the wound wasn't serious, but later they discovered anesthetic on the arrow. That type of drug was hard to detect, which is why the doctors didn't notice it at first. Brother watched over her day and night, worried that even trace amounts of anesthetic could worsen her condition. Lay's face turned ashen. It was truly fortunate she survived, but Brother wasn't happy. You were poisoned, is that something to be thankful for? Brother's still worried about me. Optimistic Lay quickly changed the subject. Dear brother, I mean the anesthetic could have kept me asleep forever. But thanks to my luck, I woke up seeing her brother's expression soften. Lay breathed a sigh of relief, then pointed at the frantic doctors. But why did they need saving? Jade explained expressionlessly, you were unconscious for a week straight. Father was furious because of this. He kept pacing the hallway, muttering, I hate it most when people sacrifice themselves for me. If anything happens to her, I'll go mad and take it out on someone. But Lay didn't think the Duke was threatening. She believed he was just worried about her. Brother pulled out a box from under the bed. Anyway, Father and I agreed that if you hadn't woken up today, we would punish those useless doctors. Who would receive punishment, Lay thought? Surely it would just be some ordinary punishment game. She was too naive. He pulled out a paper with a death skull drawn on it. She was too scared to speak. Brother announced without emotion, congratulations on winning. The Duke's family wielded absolute power. Even the Emperor had to flatter him with massages when his daughter was injured. The Emperor immediately summoned the country's 7 best doctors without hesitation. It wasn't exactly kidnapping, though. After the young lady woke up, the doctors composed themselves after their tearful display. Excuse us, may we examine the young lady with Duke Xiao's permission? The full examination began. After the examination, the chief physician breathed a sigh of relief. You're fine now, the shoulder wound isn't serious. We'll do another check in the afternoon. Brother was still worried, staring intently at the doctor. You won't misdiagnose this time, right? The elderly doctor trembled. No, we won't make any mistakes. The renowned doctors abandoned their dignity, bowing and scraping like servants. Young lady is truly the luckiest person in the world. If anything went wrong, the consequences would be unimaginable. They looked at Duke Xiao with hopeful expressions. He nodded, you're lucky. I had already prepared the drawing lots materials. I'll let you off this time. The doctors all sighed in relief. Once they left, Lade tugged at her brother's collar, asking, why did the doctors say I was lucky? What happened while I was unconscious? Jade asked Lay to sit down, don't rush. I was about to tell you, remember that fortune-telling shop? It had all kinds of traps, the arrow you were hit with was one of them. If the fortune teller turned his ring to the right, it would shoot a poisoned arrow. To the left, an anesthetic arrow. Father had grabbed the criminal's neck and in panic, he triggered the mechanism. If he had turned the ring to the right then, it would have been a poison arrow. You would have died for sure. The anesthetic arrow was meant for Mother. He wouldn't kill Sean immediately but torture him slowly. Lake clenched her fingers, still shaken. How terrifying. Brother quickly stroked her head to comfort her, but it's all fine now. Father has severely punished him when his daughter was injured. Bringing in famous doctors wasn't enough. He summoned all the priests, forbade them from working, and made them stay by my daughter's bedside. Continuously casting pain relief magic, Lay felt guilty. Aren't magic users supposed to be noble, and I'm just an adopted daughter? Brother patted her head comfortably. Don't worry, Anne is a saint. If you feel bad, you can donate more money to the temple later. Solving problems with money, that's how rich people think. She didn't understand and felt confused. Stroking his sister's round little head, Brother asked softly, why did you take the arrow for Father? If Father had been hit with that anesthetic arrow, he would have been fine. Why did you block it? But delay, Father was family. How could she watch family get hurt? Even if it was just an anesthetic arrow, if it hit the heart, it could have been serious. Anyway, everyone survived. Isn't that good? Brother's eyes widened. He had underestimated her all along. You're really amazing, though small in size. You're braver than anyone I know. She felt a bit embarrassed by the praise, but she waved it off. You're exaggerating. I just didn't want the princess to get hurt, and I didn't want to see you, and she went sad. Brother squinted his eyes, knowing his sister wasn't telling everything, but he was still happy. Then Brother mentioned the fortune-telling cards incident again. It made him break into a cold sweat. He couldn't possibly say that he had already read all those wrong contents before. To change the subject, he started acting up. Jade, I'm hungry and sleepy now. His whole body went limp. Brother worriedly called servants to prepare food. He felt relieved, but he was actually hungry. After eating, he looked satisfied. His cheeks became rounder. He casually asked where the Duke was. Brother was quite perceptive, saying father had gone home. I'll send someone to call him. Lei felt unworthy to summon the Duke. He jumped on his brother, shouting, no need. It's fine, there's nothing important, let's not disturb him. Lei's face turned pale, cold sweat flowing, body trembling uncontrollably, having witnessed the Duke killing someone. Would he be silenced too? But brother didn't understand. What do you mean by it's fine? Frightened, Lei hurriedly explained. I'd be happy if the Duke comes, but he's busy. It's fine if he can't come. Seeing his sister's cautious behavior, Jade quickly lowered his head to look at her. You don't think father hasn't visited you? Getting only one response from his sister. Brother angrily pinched her chubby cheeks. Silly, father comes to see you every day. He's just temporarily away, covering her injured little face. She thought the Duke comes every day since he visits me. He must not be very angry. Maybe my life is safe after all. If the Duke knew his daughter's true thoughts, would he be furious about her, thinking he'd kill her to silence her? When he first saw the little beggar, he had pushed her away without mercy. But now, because of an unverified guess, my adopted daughter might be in danger. He was unusually flustered, face covered in cold sweat, urging the coachman to hurry faster, then rushed into the hospital. With a bang, he pushed open the door. The noise was so loud it practically made Lei jump off the bed. Lei peeked from behind the bed as the Duke and butler appeared. Panting before they could speak, their faces were covered in sweat. What have they been doing? The Duke's expression was so serious. Lei thought he must be angry, what to do, how to explain why she was at the murder scene. Lei shut her eyes tight, not knowing how to face the Duke, but surprisingly, she found herself in a warm embrace, stunned. She heard the Duke say, child, dad's here, I'm sorry, something came up outside, so I'm late, I'm glad you're okay, I was really worried. Lei was moved, green eyes staring at the Duke, so this is what it feels like to be cared for. When she was living on the streets, no matter how uncomfortable or hungry she felt, she endured it. Though she had many friends. When sick, she could only take care of herself, but she shook her head vigorously. No, if I get used to being cared for and develop expectations, she should scold herself for secretly watching his work. Don't you have questions for me? I snuck out at night without telling you. In the tense moment waiting for an answer, Lei saw the Duke take out a flower. Isn't this the flower that the Duke brought the first time? I just thought it was beautiful, I know nothing else about it. The Duke sighed about the killer's clues. Lei truly knew nothing. He reached out to touch Lei's forehead. I'm grateful you saved me, but don't do this again. I am your guardian, you are my daughter. A father has the duty to protect his children, so never sacrifice yourself for me. Not for me, not for anyone. Lei felt comfortable being petted but wanted to object. In the end, she could only obediently agree. The butler smiled contentedly, but she quickly realized the Duke must have said that because he was worried about her. She showed a silly smile. The Duke felt something was off. He shook her firmly. Why do you look so foolish? The doctor said that after you wake up you wouldn't be in danger. Were they lying to me? For the doctor's safety, Lee quickly explained, no, I just suddenly relaxed and my reactions are a bit slow. Strangely, the Duke said to Lei, don't you have questions for me? Who I killed, how I killed them, aren't you curious about these things? Lei wasn't scared at all. After serious thought, probably because they were bad people. After all, Lin wouldn't hurt innocent people. His daughter saw him kill someone, but instead of running away screaming, she treated it as casually as eating or drinking. He was too shocked to speak. Her brother thought his sister was very brave, such a small person, yet braver than adults, taking an arrow for her father. Now the Duke thought this daughter was too clever. Just from scattered documents in the room, she deduced the first crime scene, even more amazing. The butler said the young lady couldn't read, oh no. Would her identity as a transmigrator be exposed? She hurriedly explained, though I can't read, I used to live nearby, so I memorized almost all the signs around. The fortune-telling shop was just 2 streets away from where I lived. There lived a tall, creepy-looking fortune teller. There were even rumors that to maintain his abilities, he would eat children. I saw those 3 papers with familiar patterns. That's when I thought of the place all those women had visited. It must be that fortune-telling shop. So I woke brother up and insisted he take me there. What if the fortune teller had captured you too? The Duke still couldn't believe it. Could the little beggar I picked up actually be a genius? Anyway, Lei had managed to get through this, facing the Duke's advice. Next time, don't act on your own. She nodded vigorously. The Duke smiled until his eyes narrowed. Looks like I should ask for your thoughts when investigating cases from now on. The butler also praised the young lady. You're very clever and your intuition is good. But looking at the flower bud the Duke held, he curiously asked what flower it was. Every time you see this flower, your expression becomes strange. The knowing butler looked at him worriedly, silently lowering his head. Should I not have asked, but the Duke revealed his long-buried feelings. This was left by a villain. That person was absolutely unforgivable. Lake curiously asked just how bad that person was. The Duke shook his head helplessly. Actually, I don't know either because I have no idea who he is. Then the Duke briefly explained the previous murder cases, and the clues to those cases were the scattered red flowers. Even the Duke knew nothing about the criminal's true identity. She had also received such flowers before. She speculated further. The reason the Duke adopted her wasn't because of good luck, but because she brought these flowers, but she truly knew nothing about the flowers' origin. Had the Duke suspected her of being the killer too? Holding back her hurt feelings and confusion, she only thought about how much she liked him. It seemed she would have to leave now. Lei looked up, firmly memorizing the Duke's face in her mind. The Duke understood her look. Stroking her head, he comforted, "You really are clever. At first, I did suspect you. I also hoped you knew certain secrets because whenever I was in trouble, you would help me." Lei asked softly, "Do you still suspect me now?" The Duke shook his head. "No, because you saved my life, even if there's doubt. Father-daughter relationships in this world are all different, aren't they?" The Duke had spent his life cautiously walking in the gray area, using unconventional methods to deal with unforgivable murderers. This secret was originally known only to his son and butler, but now he had completely dropped his guard against young men, telling her everything honestly. He smiled at young men. "Now that you know my secret, you can't escape anymore. Become my daughter," but Lei misunderstood. She stood up and vowed, "Your Grace, I will keep your secret. Even if I die, I won't tell anyone." Seeing Lei so serious, the Duke chuckled, "By the way, I have something very important to ask." Lei looked serious and nervous, as if she had joined the cause of fighting bad people. "Am I going to punish evil and promote good too?" The Duke looked down at Yam. "Why do you still call me your Grace? Shouldn't we change this form of address?" "Say it yourself, what am I to you?" Lei's palms were sweaty as she tentatively asked. "Father," the Duke looked at Lei expectantly. "No, not that." Lei was so anxious her forehead sweated. "Father," the Duke still shook his head with a smile. His gentle voice carried a hint of reproach. "What's wrong? You didn't call me that before." Lei felt a bit embarrassed, lowering her head after the Duke said, "Papa." She looked at him expectantly again. The Duke was very satisfied this time, smiling broadly. "That's right, from now on you'll call me Papa." Lei was so embarrassed she was steaming, covering her face completely. The Duke abruptly changed the subject. "Where's Jed?" The butler standing nearby replied, "Young master stayed by your side all night without sleep. I asked him to rest in the next room." The Duke turned to look at young Yu and couldn't help but laugh again. He teased, "Looks like everyone in the Duke's mansion revolves around you." She went, "Please call Jed here." Then he picked up the tiny Yang in his arms. "Come, let's go home." Sitting in Papa's steady arms, Lei smiled sweetly. She nodded firmly. Let's go home." The carriage waiting outside the hospital was decorated with Lei's favorite balloons. Holding her golden face flushed with excitement, Lei asked, "Jed, are all these balloons for me?" After receiving her brother's confirmation, Lei smiled especially happily. The old father sitting nearby became displeased. She wasn't nearly this happy when calling him Papa earlier. Brother had given his sister his favorite balloons, though not expensive. The gift made his sister particularly happy. The old man sat aside, feeling discontent. He also wanted to receive his daughter's smile. "If you'd like, we can go to the toy store now," but Lei felt insecure, wondering if it was because he was sick that the Duke was compromising. He probably doesn't like buying toys for children. The Duke rested his face on his hand, his handsome features showing a slight smile. "Last time you stood in front of the toy store, looking at the window display with such longing, that expression was very cute." Which time was that? As the person involved, Lei thought hard for a while. She hadn't expected the Duke to remember. He was referring to when she ran out looking for balloons. When Lei was wandering the streets before, she especially envied those children who went to toy stores with their parents. After being adopted, she had thought that maybe someday when the Duke was in a good mood and not busy with work, she might also be able to. While Lei was lost in her fantasy, the Duke mistook her silence for rejection. "Well, we can go another time. I didn't know what you liked, so I just bought the entire store." Lei was so startled she let go of her balloon. She looked at the Duke in disbelief. "Why would you do that?" She went, "Is what he's saying true?" The butler explained apologetically. "Miss, I tried to stop him, but the master wouldn't listen." It was the Duke's first time being so impulsive. Embarrassed, he turned his head away and tried to stop the butler. "Stop talking." Lei shook her head stubbornly. "No, butler, please continue." The butler cleared his throat helplessly. "The day before yesterday, The master said that when you woke up, he wanted to give you a gift, so he went to the toy store but didn't know what to choose. After struggling for a long time, before the butler could finish, Lei shouted, so he just bought the whole toy store. The Duke now looked like someone who had done something wrong, not daring to look at Lei. His forehead was sweating as he stubbornly defended. No, I only paid a deposit. The butler unhelpfully added. Yes, a deposit large enough to buy the entire store. The Duke continued protesting. Didn't I say, I don't know what little girls like, I've never bought toys for anyone before? Lee caught this detail in his words. Wait, you've never bought gifts for Jed? The Duke looked a bit guilty. At Maria Anna's request, I once bought Jed a gift. It was a teddy bear. Or was it a soldier doll? Jed's voice came in without emotion. It was a teddy bear wearing a soldier's uniform. Young Jed was just like a miniature version of the Duke. The Duke remembered after receiving the gift. Jed wasn't very happy and said coldly, Please don't treat me like an ordinary child. Such trivial matters aren't worth your attention. Let's just maintain our usual father-son relationship. His son was mature like an adult even as a child. Never called him Papa, only father. He refused to get too close to his father and agreed that even on birthdays, there should be no sentimental gifts. Besides, all these gifts were chosen by the butler anyway. The Duke looked embarrassed. The butler was quite surprised. Young master. You could tell Jed was indifferent, because all the gifts I received each year were very practical, like parts books and rare specimens, and father really doesn't know how to choose. His son was cute when young, but was cold and wouldn't let anyone in. Fortunately, the Duke now has a daughter, but he insisted he loved his son. Didn't I let you into my specimen room and buy you the poisonous snake you wanted? Jed shrugged, but that snake was already dead. The Duke mumbled quietly, trying to salvage his image and lay his eyes. We have bear specimens I brought back from hunting at home. What's the use of a teddy bear? Lei thought no wonder her brother couldn't express emotions. It all traced back to the Duke. The Duke probably never received gifts from his parents either. After all, he didn't know how to be endearing. So Lei tugged at the Duke's sleeve. I heard Bear King can ward off nightmare ghosts. The Duke looked dismissive. That's just superstition. Lei puffed up her cheeks, put her hands on her hips, raised her chin proudly since you don't have Bear King. If you're scared at night, you can come to my room and hold my hand while sleeping. After all, you don't have a teddy bear. Everyone in the carriage fell silent, leaving Lei confused. What's wrong with everyone? We're just struck by how cute you are. The Duke patted Lei's head firmly through gritted teeth. He said, What should I do? I really want to bite you. Lei's hair stood on end in fright. What does that mean? Her brother reminded from the side. Father, though I understand your feelings, you should be more subtle. The butler, for the first time, eagerly volunteered to help Lei. Miss, since you can't go out until you're fully recovered, is there anything you want? If so, I can get it from the toy store for you. But Lei still scolded the Duke for wasting money. She looked up and asked the Duke, Can you return the toy store you bought? I don't need a toy store. I'd be happy just to have a teddy bear that you picked out for me. Duke, hearing the last sentence, the Duke's previously indifferent expression changed a wide-eyed surprise. He wanted to hear it again. Say that again for me, from the teddy bear part, hearing what he wanted to hear. The Duke was very happy. He planted a kiss on Lei's forehead. What a shame. You called me Duke again, but I'll still buy you the best teddy bear. Covering the kiss spot, Lei giggled, then added, Oh right, you should still return that store. But all three people in the carriage pretended not to hear. She was deeply loved by her family. To repay this love, she acted cute and spoiled in front of them. Let them arrange everything for her, letting them enjoy taking care of a child. But when she was alone, she wasn't so childlike. Without the maid's help, she got out of bed by herself. However, after just 1 second, she was left gasping for breath, kneeling on the ground. No good, my body feels so heavy, I should really listen to the butler. When sick, I need bed rest. Moonlight poured into the room. She was drawn to the moon outside. Today was when the mind's moon appeared. When the moon would be at its fullest and largest, the moon's serenity reminded her of many things. Her adoption was initially just because she could help the Duke find clues about the Red Flower Killer. Although she had read this novel and knew the Duke would cleverly solve the case, now she had forgotten the killer's description and the previously caught fortune teller who used rare, odorless poison to kill women. But how could a fortune teller from a poor village have such expensive poison? This fortune teller had no connection to the Red Flower Killer. She remembered recently when the Duke asked her to call him Papa, of course. She had thought before how nice it would be to have a father. After all, being alone was too lonely. Actually, she didn't dare to hope for too much. That one day she would have a family of her own. Because when good things happened, she worried more about paying the price. She couldn't help but feel anxious. If she still couldn't get used to calling the Duke Papa in the future. What should she do? What if he grew tired of her? What if everyone thought she was useless and told her to get out of the Duke's mansion? She made a wish under the moon. Moon, I don't dare ask for much, just let me stay in this family. Under the red moon, the Duke's family wanted to catch the red flower killer. Standing on the balcony watching the moon, but his face couldn't be seen clearly, he had once given Lei a red flower. Originally wanting to see what kind of existence she would become in the Duke's family unexpectedly. Everyone in the Duke's mansion treasured her dearly. He began to secretly anticipate. When he would meet Lei face to face, what would her reaction be? The red flower killer touched his lips with his finger. On the back of his raised right hand was a red flower tattoo. Once a beggar who could only look at toys through shop windows, begging for the shopkeeper's mercy. Now after waking up from a good sleep, she received a teddy bear from her father. She excitedly jumped up from bed, happily lifting the teddy bear high, then rubbing it against her head. How cute, it's so soft too, so this is how a teddy bear feels and this bear is special. Its eyes are different colors. Suddenly a card fell from behind the bear's bottom. Lei guessed it must be from the Duke. She smiled sweetly, put on her slippers, and pattered over to the butler. She went, look at this. She pushed the teddy bear in front of the butler. The butler nagged to the maid about the young miss. Don't run so fast, be careful not to reopen your wound. Seeing how much the young miss liked the bear, he smiled contentedly. This is the master's gift to you. It took quite some time to make this doll. Lei took out the card from earlier. She went, can you read it to me? The butler looked confused at first when opening it. Then his expression became gentle, so this is the real gift. Then he knelt down beside Lei and returned the card to her. Why don't you let the Duke read it to you himself? He would be very happy too. Lei was curious. What was written inside? The butler had to give a preview. It's the new name the master chose for you. For a moment, Lei felt a bit down. She still preferred the name her mother gave her. Besides, noble names were always so long. Could she remember it just then? The freshly awakened Duke appeared, leaning against the wall behind the two. He lazily asked, what's wrong? She went, you should read it. The butler seemed uncertain. The Duke chuckled softly. Go ahead and read it, the butler sighed. Master is always so willful, opening the envelope. He read seriously, hello, princess, I am your teddy bear, please give me a name. The Duke, patting Lei's shoulder, teased the always formal butler. She went, you need to read with feeling. The butler sighed deeply, continuing to read from now on. I am princess's teddy bear friend. I have prepared a gift for princess. It is your new name, beautiful and lovely princess. Your new name is Letitia. It means the sky where thousands of moons rise. I will protect you when you have nightmares. My two eyes are jewels that capture moonlight for you. You must take good care of them. Hugging the bear tightly, Lei was moved, so the Duke had kept Lei in her name. She thought, he probably hopes I won't forget any moments spent with my mother. I'm just an ordinary girl born on a Monday, yet he gave me such a beautiful name. After reading, the butler smiled at Lei. The Duke cheerfully praised him. Well, read, she went, making the butler feel a bit embarrassed. Please stop teasing me. Did you write this card yourself? The Duke, acting childlike, playfully answered, that's a secret. Then he crouched down. Letitia, do you like this name? Lei nodded vigorously. I like it. It sounds so beautiful. The Duke was satisfied too. I've been thinking hard about what name would suit you because our first meeting was like a dream. Seeing you so happy makes me happy too. The Duke rarely expressed his feelings. He had nothing much to say to his own son, but when it came to the little lamb girl, loving words flowed naturally from his mouth since you don't know your birth date and you've just escaped death today. Let's make today your birthday. Happy birthday. My daughter Lei blushed shyly, then rushed forward and hugged the Duke. So this was how it felt to be needed. The Duke widened his eyes in disbelief. Every time the little lamb girl hugged him, he would freeze up nervously, not knowing where to put his hands and feet. Hearing Lei say she wanted to show the teddy bear. To her brother, he didn't make his usual witty remarks. Instead, he just dumbly replied him. The butler watched the Duke's behavior and smiled silently. Lei pattered towards her brother's bedroom, pushing open the bedroom door. The newly awakened Jade was still a bit dazed, rubbing his eyes. He watched his sister climb onto his bed, excitedly shouting, Jade, I have a new name. Holding up the teddy bear and card, she smiled so widely her eyes disappeared. It's Letitia. Papa gave it to me and he made today my birthday. Jade's smile held a hint of loneliness and regret. Father didn't tell me beforehand, otherwise I would have been the first to give you a birthday present. For sure, the jewel eyes on this teddy bear are beautiful. What are jewels? Lei couldn't believe it. Her brother took the teddy bear and carefully explained, the red one is ruby, the blue one is sapphire. Lei froze in shock, then her face turned pale, hugging the teddy bear. She hurried to find her father, Your Grace. I have something to say. She glared at her spendthrift father. Her determination unwavering, a teddy bear alone would have been enough. There was no need to set such expensive jewels. If this continues, I'm afraid I'll become a wasteful girl. The Duke remained calm. It's fine, you can spend as you like. No need to follow etiquette, better if you reach an unacceptable level. Lei was stunned, but then people will hate me. The Duke didn't see anything wrong. That's actually not bad, you can grow freely. Be a tyrannical young lady in the Duke's mansion, just always be my daughter. The Duke grew increasingly happy. He couldn't help but smile. Ah, but Lei's thinking was clear. If I don't accept the jewels, does that mean I can't be your daughter? The Duke was stunned, not knowing how to answer his daughter's question. Finally, he could only say, keep them for now, I won't buy you expensive toys anymore. Jade laughed too. Father was a stubborn person, but he really listened to his sister. One's bane is another's match. The daughter complained about her father's wasteful spending, asking why he bought a teddy bear with expensive jewels. But father seemed unconcerned. I want you to spend freely. No need to follow etiquette, it's best if you become a domineering, spoiled young lady. Then the Duke waved his hand, a pure white strawberry cake was brought in. This was Lei's first birthday cake in her life, something she never dared to dream of during her days wandering the streets. Then everyone in the Duke's mansion came up, offering their blessings together. Lei could hardly believe it, blinking several times, making sure it wasn't an illusion. Father, brother, and the butler, these three important people to her, also gave their heartfelt birthday wishes. She finally realized it was real and smiled sweetly with her mouth wide open. The scene from her dreams had actually come true. She firmly etched this day in her heart because she had a new name. From this day on, she was Letitia, the Duke's little daughter, but Lee didn't know that she had actually met the Duke years ago. When she was wandering the streets, though neither had left an impression on the other than that winter. Several little beggars huddled in front of an expensive antique toy shop, admiring the unreachable toys. The Duke was inside the toy shop, looking at a toy in his hand with concern. Would Jade be happy receiving this gift? The butler was as gentle and considerate as always. What matters is that you chose the gift yourself. Besides, young master doesn't lack anything, so whatever you give will be fine. Then the two walked out of the warm shop and encountered the little beggars hurriedly fleeing. The Duke curiously asked who those children were. The butler told him they were children living in the back alley. They probably ran because they saw the shop owner coming to chase them away. The Duke was skeptical. Are you sure it's not because they were scared of seeing me? The butler sighed helplessly. Though you look frightening, most shop owners suspect these children of stealing when they see them, so they naturally chase them away with sticks. Actually, these children peeking around look quite adorable. The Duke accidentally noticed among the children that little one with green eyes, whose gaze was filled with touching longing. The Duke fell silent for a moment. His profit-driven nature was defeated by the little girl's cuteness.